He thought his badge made him untouchable. He thought the shiny piece of metal on his chest gave him the right to talk down to anyone, bend the rules, and walk around like he owned the world. And maybe, for a while, it worked. People were scared of him. They looked the other way. They kept quiet. But all of that changed the day he walked into a courtroom, cocky and smug, thinking he could intimidate a woman on the witness stand. What he didn't know was that she wasn't just any woman. She was the one person who would strip away his arrogance piece by piece, until the entire courtroom saw him for what he really was. Officer Mark Reynolds had been on the force for nearly a decade. At first, he seemed like a decent guy, firm, but fair. But as the years went on, something shifted. The power went to his head. The badge on his chest stopped being a symbol of service and started becoming his shield of invincibility. Neighbors whispered about him. He pulled people over for minor things just to flex his authority. He'd park wherever he wanted, flash his badge, and walk away like the rules didn't apply. And if anyone dared question him, he'd smirk and say, "What are you gonna do? I'm the law." The truth was, Mark had gotten used to people fearing him. Fear kept him safe. Fear kept him untouchable. Until he crossed paths with a woman named Angela Martin. Angela wasn't wealthy. She wasn't powerful. She wasn't famous. She was just a hard-working single mother of two, trying to make ends meet. She worked long hours as a paralegal, juggling bills and bedtime stories. But Angela had something Mark didn't expect: courage. One night, Angela was driving home after a late shift when Mark pulled her over. She wasn't speeding. Her taillights worked fine. But Mark claimed she had swerved. Angela knew it wasn't true. But instead of arguing, she stayed calm. What she didn't know was that Mark's body camera was mysteriously off that night, a habit he developed whenever he wanted to twist the truth. When he wrote her a ticket, he leaned into her window and whispered, "Next time, don't roll your eyes when I pull you over." Angela's stomach dropped. This wasn't about safety. This was about power. Angela decided she wasn't going to take it lying down. She filed a complaint. She went to court to fight the ticket. She thought maybe, just maybe, someone would listen. Mark, on the other hand, walked into that courtroom like it was his stage. His uniform was pressed, his badge gleamed, and his smirk told everyone in the room he already knew how this would go. He'd testified 100 times before. Judges trusted him. Prosecutors leaned on him. Jurors believed him. To him, Angela was just another name, another person to bulldoze with his authority. But what Mark didn't know was that Angela wasn't walking into that courtroom alone. The judge entered. The case was called. Angela sat at the defense table, nervous but steady, her lawyer by her side. Mark strutted to the stand, took his oath, and began his testimony. He painted the picture he always painted: calm, confident, rehearsed. He described Angela as erratic, nervous, and uncooperative. He claimed he had reason to believe she was a danger on the road. Angela's lawyer listened quietly. And then, when it was time for cross-examination, everything changed. "Officer Reynolds," the lawyer began, "do you always follow protocol during traffic stops?" "Of course," Mark replied smoothly. "Does that include keeping your body camera on at all times?" Mark hesitated for just a fraction of a second before answering, "Yes." The lawyer nodded and clicked a remote. A screen lit up in the courtroom. "Then can you explain," the lawyer continued, "why there is no body cam footage from the night in question? And why dispatch records show that you turned it off moments before approaching Ms. Martin's car?" The courtroom buzzed. Mark shifted in his seat. That's not accurate," he stammered. But Angela's lawyer wasn't done. Over the next 30 minutes, piece by piece, the lawyer laid out a mountain of evidence. Dispatch logs showing Mark turned off his camera during multiple stops. Complaints from other drivers who had experienced similar intimidation. Internal reports that had mysteriously gone missing. And then came the moment that sealed it. Angela's lawyer pulled out a dashcam video. Not Angela's, she didn't have one, but from a delivery truck parked on the side of the road that night. The angle wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Angela's car hadn't swerved. She had been driving straight and steady. And the audio, faint but unmistakable, caught Mark leaning into her window and muttering his threat. The courtroom erupted. Mark's face turned red. His smirk was gone. He tried to backpedal, to claim the video was misleading, to say it was being taken out of context. But the judge wasn't buying it. She leaned forward, her voice sharp as steel. "Officer Reynolds, this courtroom is not your stage. Your badge is not a shield against accountability. You've abused your power, and today, this court will hold you responsible." The gavel slammed. The ticket against Angela was dismissed. But more than that, the judge ordered a full review of Mark's conduct. Within weeks, he was suspended, then stripped of his badge entirely. The man who thought he was untouchable walked out of that courtroom not as an officer, but as a disgraced citizen, facing possible charges of misconduct and perjury. And Angela? She walked out with her head held high, knowing she had stood up not just for herself, but for every person Mark had ever tried to intimidate. So, what's the takeaway here? It's simple. A badge is a symbol of service, not superiority. Authority is supposed to protect, not oppress. Power is a responsibility, not a weapon. But when someone forgets that, when they start using their position to intimidate, silence, or belittle others, they may get away with it for a while. Fear might shield them for a season. But sooner or later, the truth has a way of breaking through. Mark believed his badge made him untouchable. He thought people would always cower, always back down, always let him twist the truth to his advantage. But Angela proved something different, that courage can be louder than intimidation. And here's the thing, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it looks like a single mother sitting nervously in a courtroom, refusing to let herself be bullied. Sometimes it looks like quietly gathering evidence, step by step, until the truth can no longer be ignored. Courage isn't always loud, but it is always powerful. When Angela stood her ground, the lies unraveled. And when the evidence came into the light, Mark's shield of arrogance shattered. His badge couldn't protect him anymore, because the very system he had manipulated finally saw through him. That's the heart of this story. Justice isn't intimidated by titles, uniforms, or power trips. Justice doesn't bend for arrogance. It listens to truth. And the truth will always outweigh the shine of a badge when that badge is being misused. Mark thought he was invincible. But in reality, he was only ever as strong as the silence of those around him. And when Angela refused to stay silent, his power crumbled. So let this be a reminder, respect isn't earned by force, it's earned by integrity. Real authority comes from service, not domination. And when the wrong people abuse power, it only takes one brave voice to tip the scales back toward what's right. And that's the beauty of justice. When the right person speaks up, no amount of arrogance can stand in the way. Because at the end of the day, badges tarnish, titles fade, and lies collapse. But the truth endures. Always.